It's a stainless steel sports watch. It's a great watch, sure, but is it really worth nearly double retail? Isn't that ridiculous? What is up, Watch fam, and welcome to today's episode. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and today I'm going to be talking about Patek Philippe's Nautilus, specifically the reference 5711, and cracking the code, figuring out what the hell about this watch makes it so special. First, a quick wristwatch check. I am wearing a Rolex Daytona, actually in platinum with a nice blue dial, a watch that I have long admired. I'm not a big sports watch guy, but this has been a watch that I have always kind of said that I would love to have in my collection. Unfortunately, with a retail price of $75,000 and a aftermarket price in the mid to high 50s, I don't see myself having that opportunity anytime soon, but who knows. So let's get into the Nautilus right now, first, before we talk about why it is so important. What is the Nautilus? It was introduced in 1976 by Patek Philippe, and it was designed by famous watch designer Gerald Genta. The Nautilus was Patek Philippe's reaction to the changing definition of the word luxury in respect to watches. Historically, luxury, expensive watches that are really worth our time, the watches that we idolize, the watches that we one day hope to own, all were very conservative. They were small, slim, always precious metal wristwatches. Like the Calatrava, for example, also made by Patek Philippe. So, in the mid-70s, the movement was pioneered by Audemars Piguet with their Royal Oak. Then Patek then rode that wave and doubled down on this bet that steel watches were the future. The reference then was the 3700, and now, 40 some odd years later, we have the 5711. I believe the 5711 was introduced in the mid-2000s or early, please put the correct date right here. And at its introduction, although desirable, it certainly wasn't a watch that was particularly hard to get. And when you did get them, it was even possible to get them at a discount. We're talking about the mid-$20,000 range. And now, not many years later, the watches trade between the low 40s and the mid-50s. That's nearly double retail. That's if you can even get one. So we are lucky enough here at Theo and Harris to be officially listing a Patek Philippe reference 5711 in the Theo and Harris watch shop. While I know that as soon as it's listed, it's going to sell, I wanted to take the opportunity of my time with this watch to talk about this topic. So let's crack it open and let's talk about it. So there it is, the reference 5711 in steel. Its case measures 40 millimeters, and its thickness or height at 8.3 millimeters makes it extremely thin, specifically for a sports watch. One of my favorite things about the Nautilus and the early Royal Oaks is just that. It's those dimensions. It's fairly large at 40 millimeters, but because of that thinness, right, it makes the sport appeal much more refined. Now, I love the Rolex Submariner. It's a terrific watch that's definitely worth our time in both material and history, but it's impossible to argue with the presence here. Its design is inspired by the porthole of a submarine, which is a fairly unknown fact, and its dial, which features a couple different shades of blue, is beautiful. It's powered by an automatic winding Patek Philippe in-house movement with a Geneva seal. Am I correct? That's a Patek Philippe seal. No, it's no Geneva seal. No. It is quite thin and well decorated. So we can definitely establish that the Nautilus is a beautiful watch, and it is, in its material, totally worth owning. It wears super well, it's very versatile, its brand is extremely important, and the model itself, the Nautilus, is one of history's most important watches. But that doesn't really answer the question of why it's worth between $40,000 and $55,000. So to answer that question, I've brought two comparable watches. One is this Rolex Daytona. The watch is at $75,000 in retail, but its aftermarket price is about $53,000 to $58,000, which puts it fairly close, a little bit more expensive. Rolex's Platinum Daytona, to my understanding, is a rarer watch. It's certainly a more expensive watch at retail, and to the casual observer, one would think that the Platinum Daytona is a much more desirable wristwatch. Not only is it cased in solid platinum, but it too, being a Daytona, represents some of the best history in the watch world, period. But apparently, that doesn't matter. While the Nautilus trades $20,000 over its retail, the Daytona trades $20,000 under its retail. How about, to compare apples to apples a little bit more closely, Patek Philippe's Aquanaut, a watch that retails at $21,000. A watch that is also cased in steel, that has the same gorgeous proportions at 40 millimeters in diameter and I believe the same 8.6 millimeters in thickness. Ticking at its heart is the same caliber 324 Patek Philippe automatic winding movement. Really, these watches, barring their history, are almost materially the same. The biggest material difference is the bracelet. But this watch trades between $23,000 and $27,000, and this watch, like I said before, trades between $42,000 and the mid-50s. So the big question, is the Patek Philippe steel bracelet really worth 20 grand? And we really can't point to rarity or rather difficulty to obtain, because both of these watches are basically impossible to go and buy in a Patek store. You can't get them for retail. You have to pay some level of a premium here. So then what's the difference? It's buzz. That's it. So now it's up to you guys to answer. Is the Nautilus really worth between $42,000 and $55,000? Is the Aquanaut considerably undervalued? I will tell you that both are quite versatile and extremely well made, but the rest, like I said, is up to you. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Comment down below with your thoughts. I know there's a lot of hype. I know there are a lot of lovers and haters of this watch. I gotta say, and this is not just because we have it available in the shop, I have unfortunately fallen for the hype. Thanks so much again for watching. Like this video, everything else, goodbye.